There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, the host, coming at you from the Broken Tine studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. Guys, I'm really excited about this episode. This is kind of it's one that is out of necessity, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that before I bring on the guest. But I do have a quick announcement I need to make. We are, here at the Western Huntsman, very proud to announce a new sponsorship and discount code for you guys through our friends at the Elk Collective. And if you guys have been living under a rock and don't know who the Elk Collective is, it is a group of hunters that put together a very specific learning and educational platform for elk hunters that is totally online. And it is, when you get the service, you can log in, and there is tons and tons of content, and this is all very specific to elk hunting. And I don't mean just specific to September elk hunting. This is going to be for any elk hunter out there. So if you guys, instead of spending money on a new bow or something that you might not need, or all the gizmos and gadgets that are available out there, this is something that you can invest in yourself and make yourself the best piece of gear that you have. Well, what's between your ears? And that's the idea with the Elk Collective. It's not just one person. It's a collective of professional elk hunters, the folks that have been getting it done for a long time, that know how to communicate with the elk. They know how to get into elk, locate elk, e-scout for elk. All the things that are broken down within this course will make you that much closer to notching your tag this coming September or October, or heck, even November, December, whenever you're going out, depending on what state you're in. But the course has over 140 videos, and it's all things elk hunting. So a few things: how to get elk tags out west, the draw process, scouting, e-scouting, elk calling for from beginning to advanced elk callers out there, gear, fitness and nutrition, shooting process, hunting scenarios, and a lot more. So the course, guys, is normally $89, and they've agreed to give you a $20 discount if you use promo code TheWesternHuntsman when you log in and get the course. So for $69, you're going to be a lot more deadly out there in the field. So lots more to come with that down the road. That actually just happened today, the day we're recording this, which is February 17th. This episode won't be out until next week, but you guys get the gist of it. It's a really good one. I'm really looking forward to it. There's just really good people in it. So I was excited to announce that. And again, we'll have more to talk about with that down the road. So this week, if you are in Idaho, this is going to be especially pertinent to you. If you are in any western state, it is also going to be very pertinent to you because of what some of the recent trends have been with how hunting rules and regulations are established in each state, and it kind of does vary from state to state. But here in the state of Idaho in 1938, the citizens decided that we were going to establish a fish and game commission that makes the rules and regulations for hunting. Because remember, I've talked about this on the show in the past. In Idaho, the process in which we manage our wildlife is solely and strictly through hunting, based on science, that a commission determines what is going to be best for our wildlife throughout our landscapes. So that is the process. And there has been this trend lately of legislatures wanting to kind of meddle in that and get involved with introducing legislation and bills and rules and regulations and things like that. And here in Idaho, recently a representative, I want to say it's Brad Mitchell, but I could be getting that wrong, out of Moscow, introduced HB-507, which is going to be a rule and regulation change to allow lighted nocks and mechanical broadheads, and essentially bypassing the commission and the process that Idaho is used to and accustomed to. And it's kind of a dangerous trend that's been going on throughout the West, and we're going to talk about that. And to I guess for this episode, to back this topic up, I brought in somebody that is going to know the ins and outs of this process because he is a commissioner. And I am really excited to have him on. So Derick Attebury, did I say your last name right, Derick?
Yep, you're correct.
Okay, good deal. Commissioner Attebury is here. He's out of Idaho Falls, and he's an Idaho Fish and Game Commissioner. He's been on the commission for a few years. And Derick, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here, Jim.
So let's kind of kick this off with a little bit of discussion around your background and how you grew up and what hunting means to you. Is that okay? Can you give us a bird's eye view?
Absolutely. So I moved with my family when I was younger to Idaho in about 1983 and grew up primarily fishing. My dad was a fisherman and angler and kind of learned that from him. And then I met a great friend in the 6th grade. His name was Aaron Murdoch, and their family had a cabin in Island Park. And so we traveled up there, and that's kind of where I got my first exposure to hunting, mostly archery hunting, elk and deer. And, from about 12, before I was married, that's kind of where I got broke into hunting here in Idaho.
The area, when you grew up, before I say that, did you grow up in the Idaho Falls area after 1983?
Yep, Idaho Falls and a little bit in Rexburg.
So my family, we used to have our family reunions down there in Rigby, Idaho, not super far from you. I don't know if that little pond is still there. It was like this campground on this pond, and I was pretty young, so I don't remember. I just remember I took my Uncle Charlie's rowboat out and forgot to put the plug in and almost sank it out in this pond. So we had to get my cousins involved to help get it back to shore. But that's a great place to be. You're so central to so many different things that Idaho has to offer, and I love the area. How did it come about that you became an Idaho Fish and Game Commissioner?
That's a great question. For a while I looked at it, I had interest in it. I've always been interested in the department, its inner workings, and did a little research to kind of understand what the commission was about, the department, the legislature, to understand those dynamics. And for a while I'd been serving in some church capacities and just didn't have the time. And when I was finished up with those, I said, why not? I knew there was an application process. So I applied, went through a panel interview. There was 6 or 8 people. I think there was a dozen of us that applied for the Region 6 position. And from that panel picked 3 of us. And the 3 of us met with Governor Otter at the time, and he picked me or appointed me.
So was that pretty, just like a personal note, is that pretty intimidating meeting with the governor?
I didn't know the governor. I'd never met him, which makes it really unique. It kind of puts faith back in the system that the average citizen can be in government. He was a great individual, made me feel really comfortable, and I felt the interview went really well.
Good. Yeah, I've met a governor a couple of times, but not in the capacity as like where you were not interviewing for a job, so to speak, but you were interviewing for a position that was important to you. Did you have like a sense of a want to go into this dynamic of fish and game management and hunting regulation commissions and these things that take place on because it's an important commission, and I would say when you're talking about different states, especially across the American West, the Idaho Fish and Game is a more important commission to the state of Idaho than maybe the level of importance it is placed on commissions that are not Idaho, because of the heritage that Idaho is and how hunting and fishing is ingrained in the citizens. And that might be a bold statement. and I might catch some flack for saying that, but it really is an Idaho heritage thing. And so I guess that was a long way of me asking, what did you have this sense that you felt this need to serve on this board out of a necessity for a specific mission, or was it you were kind of sick and tired of the way things were taking place, or some of the decisions in the past, or an opportunity that maybe you just felt you could make a positive difference at? Does that make sense how I'm asking that?
Yes. I would probably say the latter part of your question there, more that I could make a difference. I didn't come into it with any biases, any kind of agenda, wasn't upset with the department or the legislature or the way that, hunting, trapping and fishing was going in the state. I just knew that I wanted to be part of that decision-making process, not from a power standpoint, but just the ability to be part of the decision-making to, as you said, keep Idaho, now and in the future. I mean, we do have a great heritage. We also have a great future, if we'll allow it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What do you see? How long have you been a commissioner?
So I was appointed September of 2015.
Okay. The reason I ask that is because I'm curious about what your perspective is as to how things were in 2015 and how it's changed to now in 2022, and if there's anything that stands out in your mind that is alarming.
I wouldn't say that necessarily that things are alarming. I've noticed that the public involvement has become more in my almost 7 years of being on the commission. So, and that I really appreciate, because that's where we get the public's perspective of how they want to see their hunting, fishing, and trapping. So I've noticed that. There's been other things as far as, everybody kind of has their agenda, what they think that should be, and which is good and bad. And it can make the decision-making process interesting. So I'd probably leave it at that. I don't think I've seen anything extremely alarming.
Okay, and that's good, because, again, we are in Idaho, so I think that it's things that can come at us that are alarming are probably a lot more reduced than some of our sister western states, whatever you want to call it.
Let me add one thing, Jim.
Oh, go ahead.
Not necessarily alarming, but maybe concerning, is that the influx of people moving to Idaho as our population increases, what dynamic that has on our fish and wildlife moving forward. Obviously, people are coming to Idaho for the way of life and the recreation, which is huge. People want to come here to be able to recreate and enjoy the outdoors. And so that at times can be pretty taxing on the resource. So that's a little bit of concern of where we're at now and where we're going forward.
So with the influx of the population, I don't even know how to ask that, but do you feel like there is a difference in terms of, like, culturally, how some of the maybe messages, emails, phone calls you get from the citizens, has that changed or evolved at all in whether positive or negative, or do you feel like the influx has overall been, on the positive side of a hunting culture?
Probably a little bit of both. People are excited to come here to hunt, fish, and trap. They want to be part of that legacy and that heritage that we have in Idaho. It's important to them. But then on the flip side, those that don't want to see that are just as equally, have a strong voice as well. So I would see it's just kind of growing in both camps, if you will. They're both passionate about it.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of positive influence from people that want to come here and hunt.
So, and being, I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but I always feel like I have this, I need this series of, what do they call that? Lightning question round kind of thing when we have a commissioner on, which, by the way, and I think I messaged you kind of along these lines, Commissioner, that the one thing that I will say when it, and I think the Idaho Fish and Game Commission deserves a lot of credit, and that said, as well as the Idaho Fishing members of the actual Idaho Fish and Game Department. Geez, I'm getting tongue tied here. Every time I have asked somebody to come on from the commission, they've agreed. Every time I've asked somebody from the Idaho Fish and Game Department to come on, to include the Director Shriver, they've agreed to come on. That is such a unique thing. Like I'm just some dude up here in North Idaho that likes to hunt that started a podcast, and it's an amazing thing that you guys are so willing and open, and every one of you has been. And I'm saying this to the Idaho listeners that, we can all find something to gripe about whether it's fish and game related or the commission related, whatever. But you compare that dynamic with some of the out of state dynamics that I've seen and with this show have experienced. There's a lot to be said for that. And so, from my end, I want to say thank you for that. Thank you for agreeing to come on. And I mean that. It's an important thing. You're not a hunter that wants to come on and promote his Instagram or come on and promote a product or something like that, which there's, by the way, nothing wrong with that, but there is not really anything substantial that you personally gain from it other than getting your perspective and your message out there. And it's taking up time away from your family, and it's just an important thing. And so kudos to the Idaho Fish and Game Commission. That is not something that can be said for other states. And believe me when I tell you, I've tried, especially with some of these bigger issues that we're dealing with out of state. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there.
Correct. We're, as commissioners, we're pretty passionate about what we do. It gives us an opportunity for the public to hear us in a different format. One thing I will add, as a commissioner on the Idaho Fish and Game Commission, I am the commission representative to WAFWA, the Western Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. And so twice a year, I get the opportunity to interact with the Western states, with the other states' departments, their directors, and their commission and board. And so, I have had a lot of exposure to how things work in other states, the dynamics, the issues and challenges they have within their own individual commissions. And a lot of those people are in some tough spots. And so
yeah, they are.
I really appreciate what we have in Idaho. And all of us commissioners on the Idaho Fish and Game Commission, we're pretty passionate about what we do.
I want to ask something before we jump into kind of the nuts and bolts of this, because that's a great point that you made there. I've got a buddy who is down in California that's dealing with some of these bear hunting bans that are being presented, from the HSUS and other organizations. But he made a really interesting point, and it's something I've thought about for a long time. But on the Idaho Fish and Game Commission, to include the department members that actually work for the department, what is the impact, the social impact? For example, when there is a petition or say a comment period on a rule change or something like that, what is the value to commissioners from a social aspect? Meaning, like, if they get 1,000 people that comment against something because it's kind of an anti-hunting thing versus 200 pro-hunting comments, because let's face it, hunters don't have a great track record of being involved in a lot of this stuff. What impact does that have on the Idaho Fish and Game Commission? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it has a pretty big impact. It's important when we get these surveys. I like to get all the comments and survey participants from the department. They'll generally provide a analysis or a summary. I like to look at it from every comment. So depending on the issue, there could be thousands of comments. I like to look through them. So you're kind of dissecting through it. Antis, supportive hunting, Idaho residents, non-residents, kind of get their perspective and feel, and that gives me a better idea of how to make a decision. So I I champion the public comment. A lot of people in the state say, well, they never listen to us. Their mind is already made up.
I know.
I can tell you that is not the case. I love it to see the comments. Some of them are kind of comical. Some are entertaining. Some are at times life-threatening, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Depending on the issue.
I can imagine.
I respect all the public comments. It gives me a broad base to be able to make the best decision.
Okay, can I expand on that question?
Absolutely.
So, what is as a commissioner, you're sitting there, you're going through some of these comments. Is there a level of impact that out-of-state non-hunters have on the decision you would make versus like citizens of Idaho? How does that get prioritized? So
non-hunter comments?
Non-hunters. I'm not talking about somebody in California that wants to come and hunt elk. I'm talking about an organization in, say, San Francisco or Chicago, Illinois, or something that puts something together to send in massive amounts of comments from anti-hunting organizations. I think that's the essence of what I'm driving at.
Certainly. And we do see a lot of those. A lot of the comments are in form letters or form emails, and you can dissect those out right away. I'll usually look through them, look to see if there's any personal comments. But to be honest with you, for some of these people, they're going to be completely negative and don't want to engage and respect the heritage that we have and the future that we want to continue having. It doesn't have a bearance to me.
Okay.
Because I'm there to support our fish and wildlife and our heritage because I believe hunting is conservation, and that's how we want to manage our wildlife in the state of Idaho.
Yeah, totally agree. And to the point that you made earlier that there's a lot of because I see these comments as well where there's a lot of people that are like, oh well, the Fish and Game Commission, they never listen to us, and I don't even bother with a comment period, or I don't ever go to any of the meetings, and yada yada yada. I see that all the time, and the message that I would want to put out to people that maybe have that perspective because maybe they've been on one side of something that didn't go the way that they thought it should have. I would like to just add that's happened to me as well, where I felt like something didn't go the way I wanted it to. But I believe in what you just said, Commissioner, that you guys actually do listen, despite some of the comments that say that they don't, because just because we might not agree with the finality of one decision or another doesn't mean that you don't take into consideration some of those things. And so, and I think that's a fine line to tread, because I know that there's a lot of listeners out there that are going to hear me say that, and they're going to be like, oh yeah, well, I sent in this comment and nobody even responded, or nobody listened to me, or they went the other way. I get that. That's always going to happen. That's always going to happen when we're dealing with something like this, especially with so many people. What are there, 1.8 or 1.9 million people in the state of Idaho now?
I believe so, yeah, 1.9.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And so I say that just because it doesn't seem like, I don't know how old you are, but it doesn't seem like that long ago that there was, not even 1 million people in the state of Idaho. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. So let's get into this HB-507. And I think that it is important from the platform of the Western huntsman, that is, because for those of you listening, HB-507 includes lighted nocks and mechanical broadheads. Is that right? I'm saying that right?
That's correct.
For some reason I went blank there, which happens a lot when I'm recording. On that topic, this is something that the commission has discussed probably multiple times since you've been a commissioner. And I want both you and the audience to know that from my perspective, I could care less if we have lighted nocks or mechanical broadheads. I know there's a lot of people that are very pro mechanical broadheads. Cool. I don't care. There's a lot of people that absolutely hate them. That's fine with me too. I prefer the type of broadhead that I've been using for a long time and probably wouldn't change it. Lighted nocks, I have some opinions on them that are very light, meaning I think they would be beneficial in recovering game. Do I think it's a game changer? or do I feel like it's a fight that I would want to totally involve myself in, for or against? No, I don't care that much about either one. So the point is from this show's perspective, I don't have a strong opinion on it. We don't have a strong opinion on it here, either way. And importantly, the strong opinion aside one way or the other is not like a judgment on any hunter out there. So I again, if you like mechanical broadheads, I'm totally cool with that as long as you're not using them in Idaho, because as of right now they're not legal. But can you talk to us about the process that Idaho has used since 1938 to change rules and regulations for hunting in the state of Idaho, hunting and trapping?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit to that, or provide a little bit of a historical perspective. Even prior to me being on the commission, a lot of these things were in play and had been reviewed just before I came onto the commission. So about 2006 through 2009, the commission went through a pretty thorough review of both archery and muzzleloader equipment, and looking at different adjustments to regulations and with the different interests of the public and what that might bring change-wise. And so, I mean, you can think of some of the changes that took place there for archery. There was 85% let-off on bows, minimum arrow weights, things of that nature, and the whole muzzleloader equipment change.
Yep.
So you advance forward to about July of 14. Idaho Fish and Game Department put on kind of like a clinic, if you will, for the commission to kind of go through some of those items, and the commission went through that, and I think it was May of 2015. The commission asked the staff to draft kind of a guidance statement that would reflect the commission's philosophy in regards to method of take. And that statement drafted used the language, restrict the use of technological advances in fish and wildlife recreation when they compromise fair chase and management objectives. And that's kind of been the guidance of the commission. Now I came on, like I said, the September of 15, and we've continually talked and discussed about it, about lighted nocks in particular. And we've had a lot of public involvement with that. And then, of course, the petition that came forward in the spring of 2020.
So, since you've been commissioner, yeah, you mentioned it sounded like maybe once or twice, but like I know that there's been a lot of petitions for lighted nocks. Let's take mechanicals out of it for a minute, and lighted nocks. And I kind of want to play devil's advocate with this for a minute. How many times do you think the commission has addressed that specific issue since you've been a commissioner?
Since I've been a commissioner, we've looked at it the one time, since I've been a commissioner, when the petition came forward from Josh Hansen in I think it was March of 2020, and so that was the only formal time. Now we've discussed it as a body quite frequently. Obviously, a lot of public comments coming in saying, why can't we have lighted nocks, or what about mechanical broadheads? In fact, I don't remember which year it was. It may have been 2018. We actually had a little workshop where the commission looked at air rifles and actually mechanical broadheads, and had a little demonstration with the current technology there in 18. So we had a little exposure to what they were capable of about that time frame.
What is the commission's opposition to lighted nocks specifically?
I think it probably delves, and again, I probably should preface this. The commission acts as a body. I'm on your podcast talking as an individual commissioner, so my opinions don't reflect the complete decision making of the commission body itself. But
I think it's more. Yeah, that's an important point. Thank you.
You bet, Jim. And I think it's more probably from the standpoint of technology creep. As we look at archery or muzzle loading, technically we've considered a kind of a primitive way of hunting. And as technology continues to increase, and we see it with everything, it makes us more efficient, more effective hunters. That in turn usually will drive up harvest percentage. And so we've tried to keep them primitive type hunts. I mean, not like loincloth and longbow type deal, but somewhere
I think it
kind of
should be
got to say.
loincloth. No, I'm kidding.
You know, one time I was muzzleloader hunting, and I saw a guy just drifting through the woods in a complete buckskin outfit with, walking right. It took me back like 200 years. It was pretty neat.
If you see that guy again, tell him I want to get him on my show. That's my kind of dude.
I'll do that.
So that, I guess with the lighted nocks, and again, I'll tell you, when I bow hunt, I've only bow hunted in 2 states, and Idaho is the one I've done the lion's share of my bow hunting in. And I don't remember when I was a bow hunter, when I was bow hunting in Utah, I don't remember whether or not lighted nocks were allowed or not. I just don't. It wasn't a thing for me. And so I say that to highlight that, it's just not that super important to me. But I do know that it is super important to a lot of hunters, and they would find me remiss if I didn't push that a little bit, and suggest that from a technological standpoint, why does it have to be looked at as a technological creep? What is the philosophy or conceptual idea of that versus taking each issue on a one-on-one basis and say, okay, lighted nocks, that's not necessarily a technological, thing that's going to increase harvest, so to speak, but perhaps just more of a tool to, when somebody releases an arrow on an elk, you can kind of get a better idea of where that arrow hit. I have one circumstance in my past a couple of years ago where that probably would have been helpful. But versus, so I guess that, does that make sense how I'm asking that? What I'm asking is instead of looking at it as like, is it going to creep like that, or is it something we could just take, individual steps? Because it's not like lighted nocks are ordering up a guided missile or anything like that, right? And so can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I feel I can. You're right. It's not like a guided missile or anything like that. It can help an individual hunter track the arrow. It can lead to other things potentially, possibly earlier or later shots that typically an individual wouldn't take without a lighted nock. Mm-hmm. So you kind of get into some of the ethics a little bit. And I think it's probably more from a standpoint, again, of just where do we draw that line? If we allow lighted nocks and mechanicals, what's the next thing to come, and the next thing and the next thing? Do we need to continue crossing that bridge because manufacturers are providing technology that makes us more efficient killers, if you will?
Sure.
And I think I can't speak for all the commissioners and all the commissions prior to me. I look at it from that standpoint. That's probably what resonates with me is, where do we draw that line for archery and muzzleloader type hunts?
Yeah, and I agree with that I think that you and I would for the most part agree with that. Where I think things get fuzzy and where lines can be drawn is we have to look at the nuance of each hunt and each particular what we consider fair chase. I'll give you a great example. One of the things that I'm involved with is a company called Tacticam. And Tacticam mm-hmm. has a little POV camera that you can actually attach to your scope to film the hunt. It would not add any kind of strategic value or lethality to my hunt, but it would allow me to capture it on film so that I have the memory and I can if I wanted to make videos, which just so we all know this, I don't know how to make videos and put them on YouTube. I tried. It doesn't work. But the point is in Idaho, I can't do that. I cannot put that camera through the FTS system, which is called a film through scope attachment, and film that shot for big game. I can do it for coyotes and whatnot. And that kind of rubs me a little bit negatively. And so I wonder if sometimes we can't be a little bit more nuanced. Like look at that and say, okay, we're just adding a camera here. It's not zooming in anymore. It's not creating any kind of artificial light. It's not doing anything other than record what is going on right there in the field. And that could be the line that we talk about. And I don't mean to give you a hard time. I'm asking what your opinion would be on some of those more nuanced items.
Right. It's some of these technologies, if I looked at it from an individual standpoint as a hunter, could I live without lighted nocks or mechanicals? Absolutely. In my past archery experiences, I've done that.
Yeah.
Could we move forward with them? Absolutely, we could. I don't think what archers want, and I don't say this like in a threatening way, or this would, if it were to pass, what it would evolve to. Archers in the state of Idaho have resoundingly stated that they want the most opportunity that they can have. We look at, when you look through the regulations, archery hunting throughout the state, you're almost 30 days.
Yep.
That's fantastic. When I solely archery hunted, I love being able to get out there, and I maximized that, and I really enjoyed it. Some years I killed and harvested, and other years I did not. And I think that's probably from a portion of the hunters in Idaho. They don't want to see that reduced.
Scree gear. Have you guys checked it out yet? Scree is extreme mountain gear. The high-performance hunting attire, scientifically tested, backed by a great company. It's my go-to camo, and of all the discussion we have about all this infighting amongst hunters about what kind of gear they choose, it's okay to have a favorite, as long as we're not fighting about it. And my favorite and my proven gear is Scree. Scree is spelled S-K-R-E. It's kind of a play on the word from scree rock found at the bottom of a cliff face or something like that. And they changed the name. And Scree gear is a complete layering system for all terrain and conditions. Gear designed to adapt to the weather. It's rugged gear, and it's all backed by a lifetime warranty. One of the things I really like about Scree is their VIP sizing and exchange program. Order the wrong size pants, they don't fit right, send them back. They'll send you another pair. It's all on Scree's dime. Guys, it's a great company. Check them out at screegear.com and use the promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping. Hoffman Boots is another show favorite right here at the Western Huntsman. There's lots of good boots out there. There's a lot of bad boots out there too, but Hoffman is a proven system that I've been using for a few years. Actually, I've been using them for close to a decade now. And I love the company. I love the story of the company. It's like a family of shoemakers, and it's just a great North Idaho story. It's a great American story. They make a great boot without breaking the bank. Check it out at hoffmanboots.com and use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. Don't forget, Phelps Game Calls is my go-to call company. You guys know it. I've been using Phelps for a long time. They're the oldest sponsor on this show. I'd say the flagship line of calls that they have is definitely geared towards elk. And what a great job that they do. But don't forget that Phelps Game Calls also has a full line of like waterfowl calls, predator calls. There's things that you can check out on the Phelps website that might surprise you. To include something that is coming up quick for us hunters, which is spring turkey. And I don't know how many of you are into spring turkey hunting, but man, is it a ball. It's a riot. You got to check it out. I love the black bat from Phelps Game Calls. It works very well for me. It's a great little read. And try out the blacktail in distress call when you're hunting bears. I'd love to hear if somebody calls one in that way. I've tried it a few times with no luck yet, but we got a whole new season coming up, and it's coming quick, and I'm going to try it again. So check out phelpsgamecalls.com. Use promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off. If you check out the westernhuntsman.com, you are going to find anything from t-shirts to Tacticam gear, and all of that stuff. A portion of those proceeds is going to go towards conservation and fighting against the anti-hunting movement. Plus, you'll be sporting a cool t-shirt that says a Western Huntsman. And now, I'm not the greatest t-shirt designer in the world, but I do have a friend that is, and he helped me put together a couple of really cool t-shirts on there. They're up now at thewesternhuntsman.com, and you could check it out. And guys, it supports the show. It helps me pay for all this equipment to get these shows out there. And to top it off, we're going to help fight against the anti-hunting movement. And there's a lot of new information and big announcements coming up regarding that from the Western Huntsman. So check it out at thewesternhuntsman.com and get you a t-shirt or get you some Tacticam gear. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the show. Here we go. I would totally agree with that. I would, As cool as it would be, maybe to have some lighted nocks. Again, mechanical broadheads. Hey, if you're listening, AJ McVitie, we don't need mechanical broadheads. Come on, that's for sissies. No, I'm kidding. He's going to text me up a storm when I release this. But the point, like I would much rather have the longer seasons than lighted nocks or mechanical broadheads. Hands down. If the commission said, "Hey, here's the choice. You can carry on with seasons as they are now, to include that you can hunt elk for just about 30 days." Which I don't know if this was you or not, but thanks for opening up North Idaho or the Panhandle for that first week starting August 30th, because the elk were lit up that week, and I shouldn't even say that on the podcast, but holy cow, they were lit up. So anyway, my point is, I'd much rather have the longer seasons. I'd much rather have that time in the field, to include when archery season ends. Now I can go out. If I failed, I've got 5 days on the rifle, blah, blah, blah. I can go out with a muzzle loader. It's a very liberal season, and I think that a lot of people that have never hunted outside of Idaho, or maybe have never lived in other western states, understand how liberal and great these seasons are. And that's an important thing. It's a quality of life for a hunter to live in Idaho because of those seasons. So, I now that I've given you a hard time about lighted nocks, let's switch to this HB-5. Unless you have any finishing thoughts with that, sorry.
No, and I don't want it to sound like I'm against the lighted nocks or not. Let me go back to a little historical perspective when the petition came out. So when Josh Hansen moved his petition to the commission for lighted nocks, it didn't include mechanicals, just lighted nocks. Mm-hmm. It came to the commission, and it's kind of been a long-standing policy of the commission to obviously not include advancement in technology. I felt that it would be important to have the broader voice or the debate amongst all of Idaho, because the petition kind of came. It was within about a 2-month period, and then we dealt with it at our May commission meeting, and it was COVID, and things were really strange.
Yeah, I remember that.
I felt it was important to at least have the discussion statewide. Bring it out in the open. Let everybody hash it out, not just on a couple of social media pages and 2 months worth of involvement. Let's really talk this out. Mm-hmm. So I made the motion to advance it to negotiated rulemaking. Not necessarily that I supported it, but hey, let's talk about this so everybody gets to participate. And unfortunately, it didn't receive a second, so the petition was denied. I think it's important that everybody gets to participate, and we just don't hear the loudest voices, because there's a lot of people that want lighted nocks and mechanicals, and there's a good portion of Idaho hunters that do not.
Totally agree. That kind of leads me to a follow-up question. With the process that brought you to bringing that up to make that more statewide to hear everybody's voice, what is the proper way? Was that petition that Josh had started, is that an appropriate way to bring an issue to the table, or are there more effective ways? Are there, can you talk about what gets the commission's attention? And are petitions the way to go? What do we do? Because I do think that sometimes hunters that are in the field a lot maybe see an issue, and maybe they can raise awareness that it's something they're passionate about, but maybe they feel like they don't have an avenue. I don't know that petition was the right way to go about it, but I'm asking you, what is the appropriate way to approach the commission with something like that when we're talking about a rule change?
Yeah, we're seeing more petitions, and I'll speak to that a little bit more here in a second, but I think the appropriate way is all the above. So sometimes the department itself is receiving comments from hunters. They've got personnel in the field, biologists, conservation officers. They're hearing directly from people enjoying the resource. Us as commissioners are receiving phone calls, emails, texts, things of that nature. And then you have the petition part. And Josh's petition, he actually called and contacted me, talked a little bit with me about the process. Mm-hmm. I think he did well. I really do. I think he was honest in the way he brought it forward. It was well articulated, and I think he did a good job of bringing it to the commission. I don't think he failed or did anything bad on his part. I think it was I felt it was really good.
I think it was somebody that was just really passionate about that issue that wanted his voice heard, right? And it got to the point where at least it created the discussion, whether it got seconded or not, And so there's something to be said for that, for sure. So
and oftentimes, even from just emails and phone calls, I've changed seasons, dates, by passionate hunters wanting to see something different. Maybe they feel the resources and the population isn't as large as it should be, or this date range is not good. And so we've reacted to that and made changes via emails and calls. And so all the above kind of gets put together, even the public comments at the public meetings. It all goes basically into the hopper to you as a commissioner to make a good decision.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. So now that we have that established, and we've established that in the state of Idaho, you talked about it and I talked about it, since 1938, the commission, the Fish and Game Commission, is what establishes rules and regulations for our hunting season, and that it's going to be based on the biologist's recommendations, the social factors, the science, all these different things that you guys put, however you guys weigh your decision. I'm not a Fish and Game Commissioner, so I can't speak as an expert, but can we talk about the recent introduction of HB-507, the process of which, and just as a reminder to those listening, this was a legislator in the state of Idaho that introduced the bill, bypassing the commission to try to get it passed through legislation. What is your take on that? Let's start with that.
My take on that, obviously the commission was voted by the citizens of Idaho in 1938 for a reason. They want to take politics, out of that wildlife management. And that was the reason that the commission was put in place. And obviously my preference is to work through the commission.
Commissioner, just real quick, please make sure you're talking right into the phone there. You cut out just a little bit. I apologize about that. Are you there?
I'm still here, Jim. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry about that. Now I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, it's just super important to allow the commission to make those decisions. In statute, Title 36 is what's beholden to the commission and the department as far as statute. And, it talks about for the legislature, it's impractical for them to do that. And they've got an important job to do. Let me emphasize that. They do a lot of great things for our state, and they have to know a myriad of things that they vote on and that they're beholden to their constituents for. But it's kind of evident when the director or a member of our department goes and gives a presentation to a committee, or they're speaking towards specific legislation or a bill, whether it's sponsored from the citizens or from the department. A lot of these people, they don't interact with the wildlife. They don't hunt, fish, or trap. Some do, but a lot of them don't, so they don't necessarily understand the dynamics of the discussion and what the consequences of the decision is.
So with HB 507, I'm speaking from somebody, I have no idea who this Representative Mitchell is. I will tell you one of two things, and folks listening to this, it is important that you understand that I am Jim Huntsman, a private citizen with a podcast about hunting. I am not a commissioner, nor do I speak for the commissioners. But I am going to share that this commissioner happens to be a little more diplomatic than I am. I am not okay with legislators meddling in our fish and game rulemaking process. It's not their place. It's not their level of expertise. It is not their decision. And like the commissioner alluded to, how do I know this Representative Mitchell knows anything about lighted nocks, mechanical broadheads, or bow hunting in general? And I'll be honest, I'm trying not to get too excited because I get wound up about this stuff. But let me back that up. I get wound up about this stuff.
Well, because you're passionate about wildlife and the management of it. I don't
and the
know.
process. Yep.
And the process. And I don't know Representative Mitchell, Brandon Mitchell. He's from Moscow in his first term. I've never met him. I don't know anything about him. I'm not certain if he basically stated that he's had a lot of his constituents that want to see this pass. And he felt that they had stated to him that their voice was not being heard through the commission process, and therefore he's enacted this legislation.
They do get rowdy down there on the Palouse, man. If people aren't listening, they do get rowdy down there. But to kind of round that out, I totally understand when people feel like their voices aren't getting heard, but going through the political process versus the commission process is not the answer to it, because it opens up so many things that can betray us as hunters in the future. And we've seen this in multiple states, and we've been talking about this all winter long in other states, how that's happened. And do you have, I guess that'd be a good question, do you have a take on what some of the repercussions of going at rulemaking through legislation versus the commission can produce?
Well, I think it creates a lot of chaos. I think Idaho hunters they want to be governed, if you will, through the commission. They want to see their wildlife managed through the commission. 7 members who are actively involved in hunting, fishing, and trapping, versus an elected body that maybe some of them don't or do or had some exposure once. They want some expertise, not only from the department who's providing the technical expertise, but from the decision makers. And I think maybe a couple points I can make, Jim, as far as the importance of the commission.
Okay.
Obviously, we're just normal citizens. We're not driven by the agency. We're appointed, and oftentimes we hear that because we're appointed, we're not accountable. We're not elected. And I would offer from that standpoint that yes, we are appointed and not elected, but we're kind of buffered from that appointment from the pressures of re-election, if you will. We don't have to make decisions to make sure we're elected in the future. The commission, we have staggered lengthy terms, and so that gives us the ability to look into the future. So with that structure, the commission, we're able to kind of filter out some of biases, whether they're political or certain motivations. Maybe it's some short-term thinking that people have, or special interests that want to kind of be involved in the decision-making process. And this allows us as commissioners to provide a little bit of balance across all wildlife concerns, and what the public is wanting from their wildlife. And it basically allows us to act in the best interest of both the public and the resource. We're not favoring any one particular group, any interest, or any certain geographical area. And that, I think, provides the best medicine for the long-term future of wildlife resources and our agency.
And I would, yes, yep, all great points. One question: as a commissioner, do you have extensive and very expensive re-election costs?
None.
Do you personally have a website that money can be donated to you to make decisions on behalf of?
None.
And I think that some people might not understand that the political system and the commission system are, as intertwined as they are, they're very, very different. And the motivations are different. And not that... I don't mean that in some derogatory way where I think all politicians are just, in it for themselves and,
Sure.
will be swayed by the wind. The wind being campaign finance or something along those lines. I'm not saying that's everybody. And I'm not saying that about Representative Mitchell. I don't know him. I don't know. But I will tell you that I do know that I have sent him a couple of messages and called his office to try to get him on the show to talk about this issue with zero response. And that is in comparison to every time I've reached out to a commissioner or an employee of Idaho Fish and Game, I have gotten a response, and usually that response is, yes, I'll do it. So accountability. Accountability is something that I think is really important, because a lot of people do say exactly what you said. They're like, oh, well, commissioners don't have any accountability. Well, they do. They do have accountability. What I have found is that, sorry if you're a politician listening to this, but politicians don't have a lot of accountability. They do things that are like the politician that introduced HB-507 knows darn well that that is not the process we use here in the state of Idaho. So what motivated him to do that besides people saying or claiming that it's just some constituents and complaining about these rules and regulation changes that shouldn't be taking place through the legislature? I don't know. It's not neither here nor there, and he won't come on the show to explain that decision. But a lot of times they do feel like, as politicians, they are above the necessity to be accountable and explain themselves. This is why, I want it to be, the topic of this to be, for folks listening, this needs to be less about lighted nocks and mechanical broadheads and more about the process. Because we have seen in the state of California, the state of Washington, the state of Colorado, Montana, Arizona, New Mexico. These states have been victims of this legislative process bypassing the commission. This does not put into the court of the hunter the advantage. Did I say that right, Commissioner? I feel like I said that backwards.
No, I think I understand and feel what you're saying there. It presents a lot of chaos.
Yeah, chaos.
In all the decision-making process, or just the relationship between the department, commission, and sometimes governor. I've interacted with some of the commissions where a new governor will be elected. They come in, they whitewash the commission. They may have been pro-hunting, fishing, and trapping prior, and now they have a new commission that's not.
Yep.
And then the hunters are kind of left with the bag going, what do we get out of this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's AKA the state of Washington is a mixed bag of commissioners. You've got some really good folks over there, and you've got some folks that are just obviously not pro-hunting. They are not pro-hunting. And that speaks to something I've talked about quite a bit, which is I just don't think that an anti-hunting individual should serve on a fish and game commission. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But when we're talking about going through the legislature, what do you see as repercussions bypassing a commission for even something that seems so harmless, such as lighted nocks and mechanical broadheads? Now I'm going to catch some flack, Commissioner. I said mechanical broadheads are harmless, but it is what it is. What do you see as repercussions coming at us, going through this process and bypassing the commission?
I just don't think it's good governance. It's kind of, it's kind of a spit in the face of Idaho hunters, going back to the 1938 initiative. And I know we always say that, but it's super important. There was a reason why they did that. It was to keep politics out of it. For whatever reason, I just don't think that oftentimes they have the best interests of Idaho hunters in mind, and for whatever reason. The commission is put in place. I feel that we're the experts. The governor has appointed us. The Senate has confirmed this to be able to lead that charge to making good decisions. And I guess I'll dive in a little bit into the details of the House Bill 507. It's kind of some interesting nuances, if you will.
Yeah, I'd love that.
So the end of January, we had a commission meeting, and we were starting to get rumors that this legislation might come forward from somebody. And when the legislature's in session, the commission typically has a teleconference every Thursday morning, 8 a.m., where we kind of go over bills, things that are related to Idaho Fish and Game. And if they're new, we'll take a position to monitor, support, or not support. And this bill came out, I think it was, I've got to get my dates right here. I think it was February 2nd. It was referred to the House Resource and Conservation Committee, where the bill would be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, it could be voted at a committee and go to a floor vote. So that was February 2nd. Us as a commission, we met February 3rd, the day after, with a teleconference, and we discussed this in length because we had the bill text and knew what it was. And we took a position not to support it, more from the standpoint that the legislature was trying to manage wildlife, not necessarily on the nuance of lighted nocks or mechanical broadheads. We took a position to not support it, but we would move forward with negotiated rulemaking, going back to kind of my what I mentioned earlier about my original motion back in 2020. We go to negotiated rulemaking to have the ability for all the citizens, all the hunters of Idaho to be able to weigh in and then make a decision from the commission. So we put that out there, but yet Representative Mitchell continued to have this bill move through committee, through the floor vote, and just continue that on. And it went to the floor, it passed 63 to, there was nobody in opposition, which is kind of strange. I don't know if that was leadership telling them, this is how we need to vote or what. I have no idea. But it just was kind of troubling knowing that we said, hey, we'll take that negotiated rulemaking, let everybody participate. Possibly he could have withdrawn his bill. We could have continued to commission way of wildlife management, but that's not the case.
So where's it at now?
So where it resides right now, so it passed the House, 63 to 0. There were 7 people not present. On February 14th, it was referred to the Senate side, to the Senate Resources and Environment Committee. That committee will do the same thing. They'll vote whether they advance it out of committee or they don't. If they do advance it out of committee, it goes to a Senate floor vote. If it passes, then it goes to the governor for signature.
What, in your experience, where do you see this going?
It's interesting dynamic. I kind of have the feeling that from the Senate side, they would move it forward, which, as I think about this more and more, it's interesting nuance. If it does pass through the Senate and it goes to the governor's desk for signature, then he has the opportunity to sign a bill that didn't come through his commission and not through the typical how wildlife is managed through the commission.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe the Senate says, you know what, in good faith, the commission said they'll take this to negotiated rulemaking, let everybody have their voice and go about that route. They could possibly say, no, we're not going to pass it out of committee. I don't have the greatest feel for that. It's not on. I looked today. That Senate committee did not meet today. They typically meet Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And I don't have an agenda yet for next week. So it possibly may show up on their agenda for committee next week.
As a commissioner, does it strike you as super odd that this is an issue that has been discussed for many years and a lot of different discussions and petitions and it's one of those topics that just always seems to pop up. Does it strike you as odd that a legislature would just suddenly introduce this bill? In a sense, do you feel shunned? Does that make sense?
Somewhat. I think constantly or consistently the legislature likes to remind the commission of who's in charge, more from the standpoint of who makes the law. That's what the legislature is there for. The commission basically administers policy, and they like to remind us of that consistently. So it does seem kind of odd that it came through that way. And it's, to me, not to be anything negative towards Representative Mitchell, it seemed kind of odd coming out of the Moscow area. I maybe anticipated it would come out of a district out of the Boise, the Treasure Valley area, or even on my side of the state.
Yeah, I thought it was odd too coming out of Moscow, and I've got a couple of friends down kind of the Lewiston area, and I don't know if there's something in the water or what, but they get fired up super easy, and I don't know what the deal is with that. So, but Moscow is just kind of this peaceful little quaint college town, on the Palouse. And it's just an odd place for that to derive out of. But regardless, that's really beside the point. I want a couple things to come out of this episode, and the biggest one is, what the process is and why. Because let me tell everybody listening to this one thing. You might be in favor of mechanical broadheads or lighted nocks, and that's totally fine. You might be, against them. The point is irrelevant as to what's next. What is next coming from legislatures who think that it is okay to bypass the commission. I say that because I'm hoping Representative Mitchell maybe gets a chance to listen to this and reaches out and wants to come on the show and talk about why he found it okay to bypass our Fish and Game Commission. What's funny, Commissioner, I keep getting tongue-tied with when I say Fish and Game because I've been dealing with his Washington issues, and they call it Fish and Wildlife. So I keep wanting to say that, and I catch myself through mid-sentence there, so it's interesting. But I would invite him to come on the show and discuss his position as to why he found it necessary to bypass our commission and introduce this as a piece of legislation. Is he a bow hunter? Is he a hunter? Is he somebody that has some level of expertise on this? Is it something that is coming from the folks that and this is going to lead to a question here, Commissioner, but where is this coming from? Why is it, with all the issues that we face as Idahoans, why is a legislature prioritizing a hunting regulation and rule change that is not in their basket of capacities? I hope I'm making sense with this.
Sure.
One thing that I've seen when this came out and some of the commentary I've seen on it is, what do you say when somebody says, well, we're the last state to not have lighted nocks, we're the last state to not have mechanical broadheads, and the commissioners don't listen to us, and so we had to take it upon ourselves and go to the legislatures to try to get them to make the rule change. What do you say to them?
I just don't think that's a great way of getting things accomplished long term. Mm-hmm. You look at early on in my being a commissioner, we lost 2 commissioners from them being pretty outspoken in the legislature in regards to some of the things that were going on at the time. Auction tags, bonus point system, things of that nature, and just trying to make sure that wildlife was managed through the commission. And it belongs to really great commissioners who, I really respected. I learned a lot from in my first year and a half. It's just not the appropriate way to go, because who knows, like you said, what will come down? What special interests, what political motivations or biases that constituents wanted, that maybe privatizes wildlife or the ability or access to hunt them. It's a dangerous route to go, and I don't think it has a really good ending.
I would like to add to that point, Commissioner, if that's okay.
Sure.
When we were talking earlier about the influx of population into the state of Idaho and how it's gone from, whatever it was 10, 20, 30 years ago to now we're just under 2 million. That's a huge growth rate. Idaho has been consistently listed in the top 5 of fastest growing states in the nation. I know the area that just south of Mecoutney County, Idaho, is just recently listed as one of the fastest counties and growing counties in the nation. And when you consider that, we can sit here and talk about how a lot of the newcomers to the state of Idaho are folks like us. They're like-minded individuals that want to, have hunting as a heritage and a tradition that they want to pass down to their kids, and they're on board with this thing. But what does that look like 10 or 20 years from now? And if there's this precedent set that, if the commission doesn't want to do it, let's just take it to a legislator and have them do it. What does that look like 10 years from now or 20 years from now when you think about I'm trying to articulate this without getting too political. But when you think about who's moving here, what is happening in other states that are making people want to move to Idaho because the lifestyle is better, the freedoms are better, the living, just the overall way of life. Gosh, the phrase I'm trying to use is totally. Commissioner, you must make me nervous, man. You make me nervous. I'm losing my train of thought here. You're intimidating. But no, getting back to it, the standard of living, I guess is one way to put it, is much greater here because of the way that the state of Idaho is run and some of the lifestyle choices that we have here that we can make ourselves without getting permission. What does that look like 10, 20 years from now as those other states kind of lose that and those folks want to move to maybe a better tax place, maybe an advantageous place to have a business, to raise a family, things of that nature. But there's this precedent set that if something isn't going somebody's way, they can go to the legislator to get it changed when it comes to wildlife management. And I ask this question while also reminding listeners that a lot of people like to talk about how only 10% of Americans like to hunt. That is not the case. The actual statistical data breaks down to less than 5% of American citizens actively purchase hunting and fishing license, or not fishing. I'm sorry, I misspoke there. Hunting licenses. Fishing is a lot greater. Less than 5%. It's like 4.69% or something like that. It's a little over 4.5% of active hunters each year. So you're talking about a 90 percentile of folks that are not necessarily anti-hunters and not necessarily pro-hunters. They're just folks. They don't really care. They like a steak maybe sometimes. Maybe they're vegan. It doesn't matter. What happens if that precedent is set? And this is what I want people to think about. 20 years from now, maybe you're just going to be coming into parenthood. 20 years from now, maybe you're going to be a grandparent. I know 20 years from now, I can't imagine I get any grayer than I already am, but I'll be a lot grayer. And we have to think about what the dynamics of this population shift and how we've managed the state and the wildlife in the past in Idaho, established since 1938, that has done a dang fine job, mind you. What is that going to look like in 20 years? Do we have anti-hunters moving to Idaho? I can tell you the answer to that is yes, we do. We do have anti-hunters, people that don't have a taste for hunting. That doesn't mean they necessarily want it to end, but they're kind of opposed to it in a sense of it turns them off. We have to be very careful with that, because what does that look like? What's happening in California right now? You have the Humane Society of the United States. In fact, the day that we're recording this was a great big fish and wildlife. I don't remember what they call it in California. I want to say it's fish and wildlife. Do you know, Commissioner? Are they fish and wildlife or?
I can't remember for California.
I can't either. So, but that's coming through the legislature. They're trying to ban all bear hunting. They're trying to ban, or they've still got the Washington State spring bear hunting is banned or canceled in the state of Washington. In Colorado, they just recently had legislation introduced to stop all trapping of any kind of predator and hunting of all kind of several predatory animals. I think it excluded bears, but it included mountain lions and bobcats. These things take place through the legislature in negative ways towards hunters and for hunters, and that is the trap that we will fall in, no pun intended. Do you have something to add to that, Commissioner?
Just from the standpoint, Jim, is wildlife management if it becomes more political, then our heritage becomes watered down. It changes regardless of who's moving here, and how we're able to interact with our wildlife moving forward.
Commissioner,
those dynamics change. Yes.
Can you move your phone just a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing you, and you just made like a really excellent point.
Sorry, I'll repeat that. Can you hear me better, Jim?
Yes, now I can hear you. Sorry about that.
No worries. That's my problem. I just basically stated that, as our wildlife management, if it becomes more political, that the heritage that we have will become watered down. And you're right. You stated since 1938, things have been pretty good here.
Yep.
It's probably the reason that you're still living in Idaho. It's the same reason I'm still living here in Idaho, because I want this to continue. And I think that politically that could change, because there's too many interests. There's money involved and things of that nature, and it just changes the dynamic.
Yep, absolutely. I love that phrase you used, that wildlife management becoming political can really water down the quality of our wildlife and our hunting opportunities. And for those of you, so and my listeners already know this, I think for the most part, I'm not a native Idahoan. I was raised in Utah. I've hunted several western states. I've hunted on the East Coast. I fished all over the United States. And so I'm not one of those folks that has vast amounts of experiences in all regions of the world. But I've got enough to be able to have an opinion on this. And some folks, I think they fall into this trap that they've been in Idaho their entire life, and they've never experienced how things are done in other states. And so it's easy to disparage how we do it here in Idaho. But and I've said this a million times, we don't know how great we have it here, and we don't want that to change. And regardless of if you are pro lighted nocks or pro mechanical broadheads, you should be a fixed broadhead bow hunter, in my opinion. No, I'm kidding, folks. Don't email me about it. That's just my opinion. I literally would not care if anybody used, mechanical broadheads. I've hunted in states that allow it, so no big deal. If you guys can, open your minds to this to an extent of which where you can look at maybe, there's always going to be, with 1.9 million people and a larger percentage of those that are hunters than maybe some other states experience. There's always going to be things that you're going to disagree with. There's no perfect way to manage the wildlife. There's no perfect way to make rules and regulation changes. There's no perfect way for this there's so many layers to it. There's no perfect way. Somebody's always going to be pissed, whether it's over a rainbow trout or a bull elk. It doesn't matter. Somebody's always going to be mad about it. And so you just have to understand that you take the good with the bad and realize that in the state of Idaho, man, we have it good. We really do have it good. I'm telling you guys, we have a great setup here. I know wolves are a problem. I know the salmon are a problem. I know this and that. I get it, but we're trying to fix a lot of that, and the activity is there from our commissioners. And so, Commissioner, can I ask you one? I know we're going a little bit long here. Can I ask you one more question?
As many as you want. I'm good.
Okay. Can you kind of explain at this point in which it is at in the process? And folks listening, if you guys, I'm a board member on the Idaho Wildlife Federation. Shout out to the Idaho Wildlife Federation out there, Brian. You better be listening. There is an email that was sent out that says that has an easy way for people to reach out to the representatives to oppose this. What else can hunters do to help make the impression on our politicians here in the state of Idaho, state level, that we want our wildlife managed through the commission and not through the political process?
Sure. I think at this point where it's at, in fact, I've had people call and ask me the same thing, would be to get a hold of your representatives, or in more in particular, the senators on that Senate Resource and Environment Committee, where this will be going, to vote out of committee or not. That'd be the most bang for the buck at this point. And that's to be able to engage those senators and let them know the importance of having these decisions left with the commission.
Can you say the name of that the Senate Resources and Environment Committee? Okay, Resources and Environment, because I want to create a tab in the show notes where people can just easily click on it and find some communication methods where they can send an email and say, hey, enough is enough with this. Senate Resources
and Environment Committee. And there's some great legislators in that committee. I respect them. They've got a tough job to do. I think it's important to let them know, our hunting heritage, to keep it with the commission. I had a great, I'll use his name, he called me the other day, Corey Jacobson. We had a great discussion. He articulated an email and put it together very well to the committee. And I think that's important, to kind of lay out why we feel that way, why it should reside with the commission, and be respectful.
Did you say Corey Jacobson?
I did.
Does he even know how to elk hunt?
I think he might know a thing or two.
Come on, Corey, hit me up. I haven't heard from you in a while, buddy.
But I mean, as an advocate for Idaho hunting and just every general hunter in the state, I know people feel that the commission has not listened on this matter. Let's get it out of the politics, out of the legislature. Let's allow this to go to negotiated rulemaking like the commission has voted to do. Let's hear everybody's voice, and let's run it through the correct way.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And hunters need. I know that I've been asking a lot at those that listen to this show this year. It's been such a crazy year, Commissioner. Like, we have had well, let's put it this way: the Humane Society of the United States has brought their A game this winter. And
absolutely,
it's been absolutely busy. And I think that's an important point too. Like, we are not immune from the Humane Society of the United States here in Idaho. It is just a matter of time before they focus their attention on states like us, which they partly have because of our wolf issue and some of the the legislation that has been passed, because of wolf stuff. Gosh, this thing keeps kicking me off. But I have the page where all of the senators on the Resources and Environment Committee are on. So I've got so guys, what I'll do is I'm going to post the link to this committee within the show notes on the Resources and Environment Committee, and so you guys can and again, be respectful. Nobody's going to listen if you're going to be a jerk. Actually, can you talk about that, Commissioner? How do you what do you resonate with the best when you get emails? Do you even pay attention to people that are a jerk to you? Call you names and stuff like that?
I read them. I do, but I don't feel that they're necessarily effective. And sometimes it depends. Some people can be pretty passionate and somewhat cross the line, but they've articulated their point really well. Because we all care about this. It's why we live here. And I think it's just important to be respectful. You want somebody to listen to you, not be turned off.
Yeah, great point. That's a super big point, guys. Listen to you and not turned off. And how you turn them off is by, well, you guys know what I mean. Just don't be a jerk. Just be, somewhat professional and just express your opinion. It doesn't have to be some long drawn out email. But that way, folks can jump on there and get these email addresses and send a quick email. Just from my standpoint, guys, it's easier if you do it individually. Don't try to group them all in one, or it'll go to spam. A little trick I learned in the marketing world. So, this has been a great conversation. I love getting commissioners on, Derick, and I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to add to this discussion before we wrap this up?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. As commissioners, we take our job seriously. We know we're not elected officials, but we feel we have accountability, and we want to keep our heritage strong in the state of Idaho. We feel that's through the commission process.
Who do you think's a better caller, me or Corey Jacobson?
Well, I haven't been in the woods with either one of you, so I guess I can't form an opinion yet.
Let me answer that. Corey's a little better at it than I am. But the one thing is, in your neck of the woods, I would love to, because I'm down there quite a bit for my day job, and so we might have to go throw a fly rod around or something when I'm down there.
Absolutely, or even just to grab lunch, spend some time in the woods or on the river, you bet.
Heck yeah, it's a great area. You live in like the I don't know. It's pretty comparable to up here because we have a ton of rivers up here too. But there is something about that Island Park area and the way that the snake is on a drift boat. It's hard to beat that. It really is tough to beat.
It is. It's world renowned, and people come here for a reason. The fishing is great.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, my hope is, Commissioner, that we can get this thing squashed out of the legislative process and we can bring it back to the commission and let you guys deal with it the way it's supposed to. Anybody listening that thinks that is wrong, understand that there is a history behind this, and there is a reason why we want to prevent the future repercussions that can come out of this process going the wrong direction. And so, Commissioner, your willingness to come on the show, talk to some hillbilly that lives in the woods like me, gosh, I appreciate it, man. Sure, I really do.
Anytime, I'm happy to do it.
Well, thanks again. I'll let you get back at it, and hopefully this thing we'll kind of see how this plays out, and maybe we can do a recap after we've seen this thing hashed out and find out what we can do in the future to prevent it and be better.
That would be great.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Jim.
You made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.